Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Mercola, and today we're honored to have Dr. Gerald Pollack, who's one of the really few really expert researchers in this area of water and what it means to us, because it's such a phenomenally important component of being healthy, is having access to good, healthy, high quality water supply. So I'll let Dr. Pollack describe his academic credentials and his training. He's associated with the university. And so welcome, and Dr. Pollack, and why don't you let us know what your training credentials are?
Okay, thanks. I'm a professor at the University of Washington. I'm in the bioengineering department. So I became interested in water, and we've been doing research in my laboratory at the University of Washington now for some 10 years on water. And the book that I wrote in 2001, it's called Cells, Gels, and the Engines of Life. It talks about the role of water in cell biology, and water is absolutely central. As I said, if you look at the textbook view says almost nothing about water in practically every organ in the body, and yet, as I said, we're at 99% water, so it doesn't make any sense. And what the book does is it brings to the fore the role of water. The central message of that book is if you really don't understand how water interacts with the components of the cell, you haven't a clue how the cell works. So that's what really got us started. And as I said, we've been doing research in that area now for 10 years, experimental research. And we found out much more than we ever expected to find out about water. And most people think, well, water, everybody knows everything there is to know about water. Well, I was shocked to find out that most people think that that's true. And those in the field know that it's absolutely not true, that we haven't a clue how water works.
You think even in late 2010 that even at this stage that the leading edge of scientists like yourself really are still, we're just the tip of the iceberg in our understanding of what the foundational basics of water comprise?
Absolutely right. At the foundational basis, we really don't understand it. So it's there all the time. It's the gift of the environment.
Excellent. So I guess I'm interested in understanding, in having our listeners and viewers understand how this structure impacts on their own particular circumstances and health. Because we've all heard a lot about structured water, and actually many people who hear about it, at least in conventional circles, are relatively skeptical and doesn't even believe the concept exists, let alone that there's value to it. And and it becomes particularly important when we seek to introduce high quality water. You've told us that 99% of our body is water, and we have to obviously replenish that. We don't make it ourselves. And the real challenge that many of us have is to make sure that we have a supply of clean water, because of course we live in an industrial society and it's associated with so many contaminants. So that filtration process to clean the water supply frequently destructures the water, as I understand it. But how about the application of drinking structured water, and the importance of that is how that interacts with the water that's already in our system? Is that water integrated into our tissues, or does it go some sort of transformation before it, and how does that work?
That's an open question, and my inclination at the moment is to say that if you're able to drink this kind of water, it will be good for your health. At our previous meeting, water meeting about a month ago, somebody was studying water that came from healing waters that are from the Ganges, from Lourdes and such, and showed some of the physical chemical information that was obtained on that water. And what we noticed is that water shows the same sort of signature that this structured water does. In other words, there was a particular absorption of energy at a particular wavelength that's absolutely characteristic of the structured water. It appeared very close to the same wavelength in those waters. And that makes me think, and so it's possible that when you swallow the water, let's say water that does contain this kind of structure, it might actually be that the structured water is preserved. So if this structure is then absorbed into your intestines, then it's possible that it can be retained all the way into your cells. So it's also possible that it's the charge that really matters. So this structured water contains charge, negative charge usually, and it's possible that what you're really doing is absorbing the negative charge.
You mentioned one component of the structured water is this charge, and I'm wondering if introducing electrical forces into a water or a current into a water would help restructure it or destructure it, if you've looked at that.
Yeah, I can do both. We have looked at that. And if you put a negative electrode right next to this structured water, the structured region grows. If you put a positive electrode, it diminishes. So the structured water is just filled with charge, and it's not free charge. It's charges that are fixed at points in a very tight matrix, something like a semiconductor. But it can build, and the source from which it builds is water, ordinary bulk water. So if you put an electrode in, a negative electrode, right associated with this negatively charged water, or negatively this structured water, the structure builds. It just adds more and more and more, and it can grow to enormous dimensions. So yeah, if you put the electrode in, it does work. It's a powerful effect.
You know, part of it is skepticism, just like structured water. People aren't familiar with the concept and they think it's a bunch of hokey nonsense.
Yeah.
They don't really have the scientific understanding or the physics training to understand this. But, you know, the free electrons are one of the most powerful antioxidants around. They can really neutralize many of the free radicals and such. But I had no concept prior to our discussion that it would also improve the structured water in your body, and even not just it was free structured water, but the one that's integrated into our very cellular structure. I mean, it's just really a profound understanding.
Let us see how this type of water affects human blood. The doctor is drawing blood from a patient's finger. Using a special microscope, we shall be able to see the condition of her body from this drop.
These are red blood cells, and they've lost their electrical charge, so they're all stuck together in a formation called a rouleau. Here's a huge symplast. Symplasts are associated with heart disease and arthritis and lung disease and many other conditions that could be coming in the future.
The doctor asks the patient to drink a small amount of structured water. After 12 minutes, the doctor again draws blood from the patient and studies it.
So you can see that the cells then become buoyant, they become slippery, and they have their electrical charge, so they repel each other. That allows them to carry oxygen, and it means that we're changing the pH of the blood back to an aerobic environment rather than an anaerobic environment. I think that's utterly amazing. That just drinking water could do that.
Well, I want to go back to the structured water a little bit because it occurs to me that I kind of made some assumptions that many of our viewers or listeners may not appreciate, and that is that the benefits of structured water. I mean, it's become. I mean, it's obvious to me and many others. That's a good thing. That structure, imposing additional structure into your own tissue or drinking structured water to improve it would be something beneficial and something we should strive for. But I'm wondering if you could provide your perspective on the benefits of this, or why this is something we may want to have more of in our life.
This structure is absolutely critical. When we die, all of the structure is lost. But for us to live, we need to have this kind of water. And this water, as I mentioned, it has potential energy because it has order, which is a kind of potential energy, and it has charge separation, which is like any battery. We have these batteries inside of us, and these batteries, nature has just two options. One is to not use this kind of energy, and the other is to use it if this water contains structure, and if this structure is retained, and if we get it into our bodies and it's distributed, then this kind of water can be very, very important for our well-being and our health.
Okay.